Let's talk about Alt V menu, which I very rarely use. I usually use it when my machine tools bugs out and turns off my cavity. Now there are two things you should have turned on here permanently, in fact three, but one of them is turned on by default by Blender, and that's cavity and face orientation. The default one is overlays. So overlays obviously is gonna be the same button as this one. You can also press Shift Alt Z if you feel like doing some uncomfortable shortcuts. This one is much easier to press. The advantage of Alt V menu is that it's gonna appear where your cursor is, which means you don't have to travel all the way up there if you just somewhere here. I don't really turn off overlays unless I want to, for example, run a render here, a viewport render. So go to view and viewport render image to render something that doesn't have any background, right? That's the only time when I'm gonna be turning off overlays. Other than that, I really don't touch them. But you can turn them on and off here. Now face orientation should be on at all times, and I'll tell you why. You can also switch it on here, same thing. And you want to set it up and I'll show you how to do it, okay? As a bonus. Now in 4.4, I think it's by default set to a correct value. But in previous versions of Blender, you actually have to, you have to adjust it. So go to themes, 3D viewport and scroll down. And this one, face orientation front. You want to grab this alpha and slide it to 0, okay, on the blue one. Don't touch the red one. Now, save prefs and go to Blender. And you see now, if I remove this face, I will see red inside. That's what you want to see, because when you model and you have some boo-boos, right, when you overdo something and you got red on your face, remember, red is bad, yeah, and blue is good, all right? So if you see red, you got a problem. You're going to fix this because it's going to be a mess. So you want to keep this at all times when you're modeling. Turn it off because, it's going to indicate when you have a problem with your mesh. And once you have these two set, like I showed you, right? Oh, by the way, in cavity, like I said, can be turned off by machine tools. What you want to do is go to add-ons and go to machine, if I can spell machine tools, oh, come on. Go to machine tools here and you want to turn off this. This option here normally comes set to true, and it's going to toggle the cavity curvature off in edit mode and then toggle it back on in object mode. The problem is that Blender doesn't really handle well when you switch between add-ons, and it's sort of gonna remember settings from the last add-on. So when you enter HardOPS, you're going to be turning cavity off, and it's just a Blender coding problem, okay? It's a bit helpful when cavity is off in edit mode, but honestly turning this off permanently is going to save you way more headache than having this on. So I turn it off, and then I don't have to worry about my cavity being turned on when I'm gonna switch back to object mode. It's infuriating because it takes your time. So with the cavity on, face orientation on, and all the settings in viewport like I showed you, overlays on, and also machine tools, the toggle for the cavity on and off, turned off, what you want to do is you want to go here and save startup file. Now when you open Blender next time, all these things are turned on and you don't have to visit this menu ever again, because other stuff on this menu is kind of redundant. So let me show you. Wireframe. Well, you can also access this in here in the Q menu. Go to settings and you got wireframe. And honestly, you're going to be working with Q menu way more often, and you're going to be kind of used to pressing Q. In addition, Q is in a way more comfortable spot than Alt V. So instead of pressing Alt V, you're going to just, your hand doesn't have to move to press Alt V. Usually when you want to move from Q to Alt V, you want to use a thumb and an index finger. It's just uncomfortable. So it's quicker to just press, Q and go to settings if you need wireframe. You're not going to be using this often, so, that's more comfortable. So that's that. Camera here is the same thing as this. Then add lights is exactly the same as this one, just different name. Don't use it. Look depth, we talked about it as well. It's on the settings, this one. And these three are absolutely useless, okay? Now, these are gonna be basically depending on which engine you're on. If you're in Eevee, you're gonna be seeing Eevee, right? If you're in Cycles, you're gonna be seeing Cycles. You should never be in Eevee because Eevee is a garbage engine unless you, need it for specific reasons. You will never get results in Eevee like you get in Cycles unless you're gonna spend a lot of time setting compositor and whatnot. And even though, I don't think so, okay? So unless you have a specific need for Eevee, stay in Cycles. And you don't need any of this HQ, or high quality, low quality bullshit, because I'll show you how to set Cycles. You don't have to touch it again, okay? Go here to Cycles and Sampling, and first you want to set this obviously to GPU compute. Set your max samples here in viewport to 128 to 256 max. Set this one to 300 or 350, you don't need more than that. Then leave the noise on default, don't touch this. We used to denoise in compositing. Now with the noise here, it's much better and quicker. Now default settings are different here. I don't really remember, I think it's like 12, 6, 6, 8, 8, I think. You can keep it on default. These are my settings. Copy them if you want to. Just mind you, I'm using 490, so my card is pretty good. But you could go with 12, 8, 8, 8, 8 if you wanted to. If you're using volumetrics, bump it up as well. You'll need it. That's all you need to do in here. There's nothing else, right? Here under output, you want to switch these to a bit higher resolution. You can keep it 1920 by 1080 if you want to, but this one is important. TIFF, 16-bit, don't even think about 8, 16-bit, and no compression, and you're gonna be good to go. I never come here ever again, unless I need to change the, the ratio from 16 by 9 to 21 by 9, which is gonna be 3440 by 1440, okay? So that's what I would do. And that's about it. Then you go to preferences system, okay, here, this one. And you want to turn on either CUDA or optics and just tick on your card. Do not touch the CPU. If you turn it on, it's going to slow things down. So don't touch it, save prefs, you're good to go. And that's all you need to have in terms of settings for your cycles. Now, if you are struggling with rendering something and your viewport is sluggish, what you want to do, you want to go here to simplify and you want to reduce the subdivision or texture resolution in the viewport and keep it untouched in render, so the render is going to be in high quality. By your viewport, it doesn't matter. It just, for setting lights and composing camera, and that's all. You don't need to really have high resolution in viewport if you can, if your PC cannot handle it, right? So use this very powerful feature. I think it came in 3.0 or 3.6, I can't remember. As a tip, I can show you something really interesting. So if you're gonna have, let's set this to cycles and run a camera here. The only thing in this scene, I got camera, plane, and cube, and I got 0 textures, none. I don't even have a single textures in this, in this blend file. Okay, look at my VRAM. It's 7 gigs out of 24. Look what happens when I'm gonna switch back to 3D viewport. It goes down to 2.6. So my VRAM usage is dropping by, by 4 gigs. And that's a scene without any textures, without any rubbish, right? Without any duplicates, duplicate textures, unneeded stuff. I ran quite often, out of memory on my 4090 in Blender. So, always switch back to 3D viewport when you're rendering and you're gonna be good. With these settings and this knowledge, you can render 99.9% of renders, because it's exactly what I do in every single Blender render, okay? So, you don't need any of this rubbish, right? Moving on, talked about it, simplify. He's gonna toggle, the scene to something simpler. Again, I would just use this one, to be honest. It's quicker and easier, okay? This one is kind of pointless. In fact, this one, and this one, and this one is the same as, these options here, okay? So it's nothing really new. It's vanilla Blender behavior, just under Alt V menu. So, that's it. Now, cavity we discussed, you need to have it on, and that's non-negotiable. Otherwise, you can't see your edges. And like I said, set it up and save preferences, you're good to go. Shadows, do not turn this shit on. This is going to slow down the hell out of your UI. And I think if you're going to turn on Cycles HQ, let me just try this. I think it's going to turn on shadows. No, it didn't. Okay, well, never mind. But, do not turn this on. For one, it's going to shade your mesh really weirdly. And for two, it's going to really slow your viewport. And like I said, unless they fixed it, I don't think they did. I have a video showing you the difference between, shadows on and off. Let me put it this way. That scene in this video I'm talking about was quicker in render preview than in 3D viewport with shadows on, right? So when I had shadows turned on, the scene was much faster to navigate in freaking render view than in viewport. So that's what shadow does. It completely obliterates the FPS of the viewport. Don't touch this shit. Now the last one is gonna be purge.ui, which is gonna basically cleansing the UI. I have a better tool for you, okay? What you wanna do is you want to use this, okay? Go here to this menu, go to unused data and click on purge. Let me show you how this works if you don't know, okay? It's fantastic. So let's say you got multiple objects and I'm going to run Alt M. We're gonna be talking about Alt M menu in the next video. Control click to add different textures to all these, cubes. So we got 3 textures, right? Now watch this. I'm gonna delete them, right? I'm gonna add a new cube and watch. I still got these textures in my scene. So imagine if these were 8K textures running in my scene. They're gonna be bloating the VRAM usage. They're gonna be bloating the file size, especially when you wanna when you want to export and you want to pack, where is it, external data here, pack all resources to the blend file so you can open the blend file on a different PC with all the textures being linked correctly. Because, if you just save the blend file like this, right, normal save, it's going to link to the textures on your PC. It's not going to include them in your file. You need to pack all the textures. But before you pack the textures, you want to clean the file so it's going to be as small as possible, right? You want to run the purge. Watch on the bottom of the screen, right? Boom, 7 data blocks were purged. And you want to run this thing until you're going to see nothing, like no orphan data or nothing being cleansed. That means your file was cleaned up. Then you switch back to view layers and you're good to go. And that's how I would clean my UI and my blend file. Okay, it's the best way to do this. And I recommend you use that tool. And this would cover the Alt V menu. That's all you need to know about it. It's not really much to talk about. I don't really use this except, like I said, for cavity occasionally. Other than this, I don't really need it, and probably you won't be needing it either, okay? But it's one of the most common menus used with HardOPS, so I thought I'm gonna mention it here in this course. In next video, we're gonna talk about Alt M menu, and then we still have to cover the Control tilde menu, which is quite important, all right? So I'll see you in the next video.